Mr. Speaker, the world today is being reshaped by powerful forces. Earlier, the PM Gun and members of the House spoke about geopolitical tension, economic volatility, technological disruption, and the looming crisis of climate change. Today, I'll focus on one of the greatest threats to our generation, and that is climate disruption. It is not tomorrow's problem. It is already here, and around the world, the pace of climate action is slowing. The spirit of global cooperation is weakening. In fact, some countries have already wavered in their Paris Agreement pledges. Even with current commitments, the world is on track for warming at 2 or 3 degrees, well below the 1.5 degrees that science tells us is safe. Singapore contributes just 0.1% of global emissions, but we will still feel the full force of climate change. Or we cannot change the world's trajectory alone. We must be prepared to live with its consequences. As Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said in his National Rally speech, we must look ahead, anticipate what is on our horizon, and prepare to ride the next wave of change. That is the hallmark of the PAP government. We govern not just for the next election cycle, but for the future generations of Singaporeans. Throughout our history, the PAP government has made bold decisions with foresight and discipline. We invested in water resilience before others even thought about it. New water, desalination, local catchments. We transformed waste management with incineration and adapted Pulau Semakau. We cleaned up the Singapore River and tackled air pollution long before environmentalism was fashionable. As our founding Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, once declared, I'm calculating not in terms of the next election, I'm calculating in terms of the next generation, in terms of the next 100 years, in terms of eternity. And this was said back in 1965. And this spirit endures in today's political leadership. Singapore's future and our survival is at the front and center of everything that we do. Our adaptation strategy is not piecemeal. It is coordinated, it is ambitious, it is backed by long-term thinking across generations of leaders. We are looking 30, 50, even 100 years ahead. And that is why we have committed about $100 billion over the next century for coastal protection. Now, this is not an elections or political slogan. We're just 4 or 5 months out into the new term. But it is a serious financial commitment, one that we plan prudently, and that we will fund sustainably through our fiscal policies and reserves. There are very, very few countries in the world that can say the same. Climate change is no longer abstract. It is affecting our daily lives. By 2100, sea levels could rise by 1.15 meters. If you add storm surges, almost 30% of our land today is at risk. Think about East Coast Park, Sentosa, Eunos Kembangan, and possibly up to Tanjung Katong underwater. Imagine Singapore without the coastlines that we are familiar with. No evening jogs or family picnics at East Coast Park, no Marina Bay waterfront skyline. These could be just memories of what we used to be if we did nothing today. At the same time, rainfall is intensifying. We feel it, I feel it, I think you feel it too. Extreme daily rainfall could increase by 92% by 2100. Over the years, the government has spent billions of dollars on our canals and drains to prevent floods. But extreme rainfall will only mean that flash floods in urban areas will only get more common if we do not act. The question is whether we can overcome practical constraints to engineering and costs to cater to extreme weather, given our tight landmass and highly developed urban areas. The temperature is also getting hotter. Due to global warming and the urban heat island effect, mean daily temperatures may rise by 5 degrees by 2100. Last year was the hottest year on record globally. And in Singapore, our coldest month today is already warmer than our warmest month in the 1960s. Imagine that. Our food security is also at risk. We import more than 90% of our food. Floods, droughts, and export bans can disrupt supplies overnight. We saw this during COVID and got us thinking of new approaches and strategies to develop food resilience. Water too is vulnerable. Our 4 national taps give us resilience. But the changing weather patterns and rising demand means that we must work harder. Now, these are not distant scenarios, ladies and gentlemen. They are today's lived realities, and we can already feel the changes. At first glance, climate adaptation feels like setting up various defense measures across the country: seawalls, drains, border systems, solar panels, and food stockpiles. But adaptation is also about vision. It is about turning necessity into opportunity. Take Marina Barrage. History shows us why such long-term projects matter. When Marina Barrage was first proposed, there were many who doubted its feasibility and value. Today, it's one of Singapore's most iconic landmarks: a reservoir, a flood barrier, a place where families gather for recreation. What was once a bold idea has now become a national treasure. While it was built for flood control and water supply, it is now a place where families picnic, students learn, and communities gather. Now, that is the approach that we must take: protecting our people and our assets with a purpose, and creating greater value in adaptation. We are embarking on a general effort to protect our coastlines. The Long Island project along East Coast Park will be more than just a seawall. It will include reclaimed land for homes, a freshwater reservoir, and new spaces for recreation. We are creating value for our people by providing more homes, more facilities, and more opportunities while protecting our coastline. At Pulau Tekong, we have completed Singapore's first polder. The polder used half the sand required of conventional reclamation, while increasing the training space for the SAF, the size of 2 Toa Payoh towns. We have launched site-specific studies for Greater Southern Waterfront, Changi, Jurong Island, and more. And studies for Sentosa and the Southwest Coast will start by 2026. Piece by piece, we are creating a ring of resilience around Singapore. But we are not on this journey alone. The PAP government will continue to build trust with Singaporeans and bring our people with us for this journey and for the long haul. We want to engage our citizens. We will also consult nature groups like the Nature Society, because resilience must also mean shared ownership. As President Tharman reminded us in his President's address, that this trust has allowed us to make hard choices when needed and to plan for the future beyond current election cycles. And this is precisely what adaptation demands. Choices need to be made today for risks that may arise decades ahead. Youth and nature groups have already come forward with ideas, from marine biodiversity corridors to recreational spaces, showing how Singaporeans want to shape their future. We are also building flood resilience inland. So this year, we launched an Alliance for Action to co-create a flood resilient developments guidebook with industry partners like the Singapore Institute of Architects. The guidebook will give property owners and developers a toolkit of flood protection measures. These measures will enhance the flood resilience of their premises while allowing solutions that best integrate with the design. We are also working with businesses and residents in flood-prone areas, and we distribute flood barriers. We run awareness campaigns. No matter how strong the storms are ahead, the government will work with you to overcome them together. Climate resilience is not just about engineering. It's really also about mindset. I will now share our plans for heat resilience. Rising heat is changing daily lives, and we are developing a whole-of-government heat resilience strategy. It covers urban planning, building design, public health, and community awareness. The government has a national heatwave response plan to protect Singaporeans, and this will require the collective effort of government, our employers, and our people. For workers involved in heavy physical labor, employers will keep a close watch on heat stress levels and ensure that they have sufficient hydration and rest away from the sun. Students can dress down or switch to home-based learning if needed. Besides the efforts from the government, the public can also play its part. Volunteers can check on vulnerable groups such as the elderly in our community To ensure that they are adequately protected, we can open cooling centers at CCs and the RCs for vulnerable groups and monitor patients and seniors in hospitals and elder care centers. Through the MyENV app, the public can also get timely heat stress advisory information on how to protect themselves according to heat stress levels. But ultimately, resilience is not just about infrastructure. It is about mindset, just as total defense reminds us that every Singaporean has a role in our security. Climate defense requires collective action by everyone. And the test will come during an extreme climate event. Will we stand together, support the vulnerable, and act as one people? Now that is what will define us as Singaporeans. We are also learning from others who face extreme heat today. We are studying heat waves in Europe, heat adaptation measures in the Middle East, and exploring novel cooling methods with researchers and preparing before such extreme events hit our shores. Looking ahead, we are strengthening whole-of-government coordination and partnering businesses, academia, and the community to develop an integrated heat resilience strategy. This will create shaded walkways, green corridors, and cooling zones, which will improve livability while making our neighborhoods healthier and more walkable. Already, URA and HDB are testing and scaling innovative measures like new wind flow modeling techniques and cooling materials in our estates. These are among new innovations that can potentially make a difference in our daily comfort in the long run. Moving on to food and water resilience. Food is a part of our culture and identity, but disruptions are becoming more common. Today, floods, droughts, and heat waves are affecting global crops globally. COVID was a stark reminder of our vulnerabilities. I recall in 2020, there were concerns that countries' COVID measures would lead to food supply disruptions, such as eggs, and this led to increased demands for eggs overnight. Yet within days, we were able to reassure the public of continued supply due to our diversified sources and stabilized demand. Now, that experience underlined why resilience is non-negotiable. That is why we are diversifying our sources. Before COVID, eggs came mostly from one country. Today, we import from more than 10 countries, while our local farms here provide a third of our supply. Even as we increase local food production, we will work to facilitate food imports from new sources. At the industry level, we will support our local importers to nurture strong relationships with business partners through overseas sourcing and business matching trips. Our local farms and food production still matter. They are our assured source in crises, and we are helping our farms to scale by addressing key challenges of productivity, costs, and demand. We want to encourage local farms to tap on technology to grow food in a more productive and climate-resilient manner. Through the Agri-Food Cluster Innovation, or ACT Fund, farms such as Green Harvest have invested in hydroponics greenhouse with automated mobile gully systems. This has made them 5 times more productive than traditional farms. But Singaporeans must also support local produce. When we support our local farmers and buy more local produce such as chai sim or sea bass, we are building resilience for ourselves. When Singaporeans choose produce with the SG Fresh Produce branding at supermarkets or wet markets, you are directly supporting our farmers and our food security. Local produce is fresher, lasts longer, incurs lower carbon footprint to reach us, and many are pesticide-free. I'm glad that industry players, through SAFER, are already working on long-term contracts between farmers and buyers. Now, these are not abstract ideas. They are already feeding Singaporeans today. Likewise, water is essential to our lives, and for Singapore, water is a precious and limited resource. As then PM Lee Hsien Loong said in 2021, water is a strategic and scarce resource, and it's also a precious fruit of our labors. We are always pushing the limits of our water resources. We have, over successive decades, built a robust and diversified water supply, made possible by right pricing water. We have built up our 4 national taps: local catchment, imported water, new water, and desalination to strengthen our water resilience. But as our population and economy grows, and as weather patterns change, we have to work harder to conserve this precious resource, because water security is also national security. Singapore's waste system is so efficient to the point that it is pretty much out of sight, out of mind. The issue for Singapore is that we have very limited land for waste management, and the reality is that Semakau landfill may be full by 2035, just 10 years ahead. As Singapore becomes more affluent and develops new industries, we will produce and consume more. Hence, if we don't manage our waste well, we will face issues of disposing them within the next just 10 years. Since 2021, we have collected over 30,000 tons of e-waste under the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme to develop a circular economy. In 2026, we will launch the Beverage Container Return Scheme to boost the recycling of plastics and metals. For food waste, large commercial industry food waste generators in new buildings, they must now segregate food waste for treatment, and this will be extended to more and more buildings. The industry is also stepping up. The AFA and packaging waste reduction for the e-commerce sector, which included players like Amazon and Shopee, has developed guidelines to encourage the use of sustainable packaging. In our estates, new initiatives such as rehab bins allow residents to deposit recyclables, scan QR codes, and track recycling habits. This helps to build awareness and give families a sense of ownership in reducing waste. But we must also recognize that we have room to improve. Our overall recycling rate stands at about 50%, as compared to 63% in Australia. This comparison is a reminder that Singapore can and must do better with our collective effort. Everyone can do the 3 Rs: reduce consumption, reuse what you can, recycle right. And this only works if we all commit together. Moving on to a low-carbon future. Despite the backsliding of global climate action, Singapore must stay the course in our transition to a low-carbon future. There is the economic imperative to ensure that our businesses and jobs remain competitive for the long term. We will continue to support businesses with incentives to improve their energy efficiency, and based on the latest data from the International Energy Agency, Singapore's energy intensity will rank among the lowest 1/3 if compared to all OECD countries. Singapore imports almost all of our energy supply, and it is important that Singapore raises our energy efficiency to make every joule count. As businesses improve on the energy efficiency, we will continue to calibrate the price signal through the carbon tax, which aims to enhance the business case for low-carbon solutions. The government uses the carbon tax we collect to support businesses in the green transition, and we encourage adoption of low-carbon technologies such as solar power. Well, the good news is that Singapore has achieved our 2025 solar deployment target of 1.5 gigawatt peak and is on track to meet our goal of at least 2 gigawatt peak by 2030. We are also partnering industry for other climate mitigation measures such as high-quality carbon credits, as well as cross-border carbon capture and storage. As regional countries explore nuclear power, we are building capabilities in nuclear science and safety. Through the Singapore Nuclear Research and Safety Institute, we aim to grow from 50 to 100 experts by 2030. And this will allow us to assess risks prudently and plan for long-term possibilities. Households too play their part. The climate-friendly household program supports households in switching to efficient appliances. As of August 2025, 78% of eligible HDB and 55% of private households have claimed their climate vouchers, of which $187 million has been utilized. Now, this helps households save on utility bills while helping to lower our carbon footprint. We are also making full use of our land. By 2030, nearly every HDB block with a suitable rooftop will be fitted with solar panels. And these panels power common services, lifts, lights, and water pumps, directly lowering energy costs for residents and town councils. Mr. Speaker, climate change is the defining challenge of our generation. Every adaptation measure I have shared, whether it is the $100 billion in coastal protection, national heat strategies, food and water resilience, or circular economy innovation, reflects more than just engineering. It reflects a philosophy of governance, a philosophy rooted in the PAP government's long-term view, passed down from our founding fathers across generations of political leaders and to the 4G leaders of today. This is rooted in fiscal prudence, political will, and the conviction that every generation must leave behind a stronger foundation for the next. As Minister Graceful reminded us at the V3 National Climate Change Studies Symposium last year, climate change is an existential threat for Singapore, and the government treats it with utmost seriousness. We are investing significantly to better understand it and starting our planning and preparatory works. In the next 5 years, we will develop Singapore's inaugural National Adaptation Plan, or NAP in short, which Minister announced this year at COS 2025. The NAP will be our living roadmap to address the physical risks and social impact of climate change. Now, this is the commitment that my colleagues and I at MSE bring to this work. We plan, we prepare, and we act early because safeguarding Singapore is first to our duty. President Taman shared in his address at the opening session of this Parliament, we will nurture a we-first society at every level, starting in the community. And that is our calling today, to take the long view, to put we before me, to protect tomorrow with resilience, steward today's resources responsibly, and ensure that Singapore, our little red dot, continues to thrive in a turbulent world. This is the PAP government's promise, to govern not just for the next election, but for future generations to come. And for us, for all of us here in this chamber, to do so with the same courage and foresight of our founding fathers that built the Singapore that we enjoy today. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, can I continue in Malay, please? Tuan Speaker, Perdana Menteri Lawrence Wong telah menyatakan dalam ucapan Hari Kebangsaan, kita mesti melihat ke hadapan, menjangkakan apa yang ada di hadapan kita, dan bersiap sedia untuk menghadapi gelombang perubahan yang akan datang. Perubahan iklim adalah cabaran paling besar generasi kita. Ia bukan isu masa depan, ia sudah pun berlaku. Haba semakin meningkat, hujan lebih lebat, dan paras laut semakin naik. Singapura hanya menyumbang 0.1% daripada pelepasan global, tapi kita akan merasakan kesannya sepenuhnya. Di sinilah keunikan pemerintah PAP. Dari dahulu, kita tidak pernah memerintah hanya untuk kitaran pilihan raya, tetapi untuk masa depan semua rakyat Singapura. Seperti mana yang telah pernah ditunjukkan oleh Encik Lee Kuan Yew dalam kisah Air Singapura, pemerintah berani membuat keputusan sukar, merancang puluhan tahun ke hadapan dan memastikan kita mengarahkan sumber untuk melaksanakan rancangan-rancangan tersebut. Inilah semangat yang membolehkan Singapura yang bertahan, dan inilah juga semangat yang membimbing kita dalam menghadapi perubahan iklim hari ini. Pertama, pelindungan pantai dan banjir. Pemerintah telah membuat keputusan berani untuk melabur $100 bilion dalam tempoh 100 tahun bagi melindungi pantai kita. Projek Long Island akan melindungi East Coast daripada kenaikan paras laut sambil menyediakan rumah, takungan air tawar dan juga ruang rekreasi. Polder di Pulau Tekong pula membuktikan bahawa kita boleh melindungi pantai dengan cara lebih cekap sambil memberi SAF ruang latihan yang lebih besar. Kedua, resiliensi haba. Pemerintah membangunkan strategi resiliensi haba nasional yang meliputi reka bentuk bandar, kesihatan awam dan juga sokongan komuniti. Semasa gelombang haba, kita boleh memberi amaran melalui aplikasi MyENV serta melindungi pekerja dan pelajar. Tetapi resiliensi bukan hanya soal infrastruktur. Ia soal sikap masyarakat untuk berdiri bersama seperti mana semangat pertahanan mutlak ataupun total defense. Ketiga, resiliensi makanan dan air. Semasa COVID, kita melihat betapa mudah bekalan makanan terjejas. Kini kita mengimport telur lebih daripada 10 negara dan ladang tempatan kita meningkatkan lagi pengeluaran dengan teknologi moden. Kita juga menggalakkan rakyat memberi produce tempatan dengan label SG Fresh Produce. Air pula sentiasa menjadi isu strategik. Justru kita bangunkan New Water dan loji-loji desalination. Seperti mana mantan Perdana Menteri Lee Hsien Loong pada tahun 2021 mengatakan, Air adalah sumber strategik dan hasil tenaga kita amat berharga. Sebab itu, pemerintah PAP terus melabur dengan disiplin fiskal dan pandangan jauh. Keempat, pengurusan sisa. Jika tiada tindakan, Pulau Semakau boleh penuh menjelang 2035. Pemerintah tidak menunggu sehingga krisis berlaku. Kita melaksanakan rasa tanggungjawab pengeluar diperluas, merancang skim pulangan bekas minuman pada tahun 2026 dan juga kita membangunkan ekonomi kitaran dengan industri. Inilah contoh pemerintah PAP. Kita tidak lari daripada trade-off ataupun isu-isu yang mencabar, tetapi kita merancang dengan pandangan jangka panjang dengan berani. Akhir sekali, inovasi tenaga. Singapura telah mencapai sasaran solar 2025 lebih awal dan menjelang tahun 2030, hampir semua bumbung HDB yang sesuai akan dipasang panel solar. Kita juga mengimport tenaga yang boleh diperbaharui ataupun renewable energy melalui projek LTMS serta menyokong isi rumah dengan voucher iklim. Semua ini menunjukkan bahawa kita bukan sahaja berdaya tahan tapi juga bekal berdaya saing dalam ekonomi hijau masa depan. Tuan Speaker, perubahan iklim adalah ancaman yang wujud. Tetapi ia juga peluang untuk membuktikan apa yang membezakan Singapura. Kita mempunyai pemerintah yang berani merancang puluhan tahun ke hadapan. Kita mempunyai disiplin fiskal dan kita juga komited untuk menjaga rakyat melangkaui kitaran pilihan raya. Seperti yang Presiden Taman telah tekankan dalam ucapan Presidennya, kita akan memupuk sebuah masyarakat kita dahulu pada setiap peringkat. Bagi saya dan rakan saya di Kementerian MSE, inilah komitmen kami untuk merancang lebih awal, untuk melindungi rakyat kita dan memastikan Singapura sentiasa bersedia menghadapi cabaran iklim. Inilah janji pemerintah PAP. Kami memerintah bukan hanya untuk pilihan raya yang akan datang, tapi kita memerintah untuk generasi yang akan datang. Tuan Speaker, saya menyokong usul ini. Terima kasih.